Hi, welcome to this tutorial for procedural NPC swarms. I'm going to show you how to set this up into your project so that you can have zombie AI, and as you see, there's a lot of them, so you can have large-scale zombie crowds like Days Gone, and they'll chase you and stuff, and then they'll go back to pathfinding if you're too far away. So that's the behavior in the demo content. I'm going to show you how to set that up. So to start, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the edit plugins, and we're going to make sure it's installed. So after you install it through the Epic Games Launcher through Fab, you'll have this this procedural NPC zombies. You'll either have Pro or Light. Pro and Light have different feature sets, so look on the store page for the difference. I don't have them on the top of my head, but on the store page they'll be listed what's different between the two. Light will be cheaper and Pro will be a little bit more expensive. But just make sure this is enabled, and then you might see a restart editor. Click restart editor so that it takes effect, and then what you'll do is you will go to settings in the content browser over here, and you'll click show engine content or show plugin content if you've installed it to your project. If you've installed it through the Epic Games Launcher, it'll be on engine content. Once you have that, you'll scroll in the engine, you'll go to plugins, I believe, yeah, plugins, and then you'll go down until you see procedural NPC zombies, okay, and you'll go to its demo content. Now in its demo content, it has necessary content and demo content. I'm going to go over what's in each of these folders later in the video. For now, I just want to show you how to get this set up in your level and get this added to your player so you can go and start using it, assuming you're going to be using the behaviors from the demo content. Okay. So we want to go into the necessary content. We want to go to the manager and add this to your level. Just drag and drop it in somewhere. If you're using world partition, make sure it's set to non-spatially loaded, okay? And then, so it's always loaded. And then, because the behavior tree uses this. And then what you want to do is you want to go to the spline, the swarm path, VP swarm path, and just drag this into your level, and then drag points around wherever you want them to path, wherever you want them to spawn and path. So I already have a bunch of them already set up in my level. So as you can see, I have all these splines. These will be hidden in the game, but that's where they're going to spawn. Now that you have the swarm path in your level, make sure you also have a nav mesh, which you can see if you do by pressing P on your keyboard. P as in Paul. And then yeah, so press that. And if you don't, make sure you add one and make sure it fills your level so that the NPC zombies can move around and whatnot. The next thing is we need to make sure our AI is set up to track the player. So if we go to the demo content, we'll see it has swarm loader setter and swarm target. Just copy these two, just Control C, Control V them onto your player character, and then from there you'll have it. They should be able to track your spawning. If I miss anything, it's going to be covered in the later part of the video, so if it's not working, just stick around for the rest of the video and I'll probably cover something. I'm kind of going off memory here. So from there, once you have that on your player, the next thing I recommend doing is, if you're using the demo content and you're making changes to it, I recommend moving it into your content folder, your project content folder, because if I do an update on Fab and the plugin gets updated and something in here gets changed, your version will be overwritten. So like if you're using the AI character and you make a change to it or you add behaviors or whatever, and I do an update, then your character will be overwritten. So make sure you move whatever you're using to your main project. Okay, so now that it should work like this. So I'm in a dark spot here. It'll light up. So as you can see, I've got AI chasing me. They'll chase me, and if I get close to them, they'll chase me. They're walking, so forth. Looks like they're doing that. And then yep. So that's basically the behaviors for that. So if you've added the components from the demo content player and the and added the spline and the manager to your level, those three should work with the nav mesh. Those should work. So I'm going to go over how the framework is set up now. So there is a manager that you need to add to your level first and foremost, so that the chase behaviors can work. Okay, the manager basically stores an array of all the targets in the level, and then it uses that in the behavior. So then there are path points and spawners, and these get put along the spline. So the path points are just a box collider that they trace against, and there is an AC path point setter component. What this does is it adds a tag to the actor on begin play, and this tag is called path point. You can change this if for some reason this is already used in your project. You can change it. Make sure that the behavior tree uses the same name for the swarm pathfinding. Okay, and then we have the spawners. Now these spawners, basically I just have a limiter, which is found in the Pro. If you have light, you won't have this. And then a spawn swarm character target based. Now this is all using the swarm loader component. Sorry, and on here there's a target tag. If you copy this, it will have the same. You'll notice it has the same as I'm sorry, right here, swarm loader setter. It has the same as the swarm loader setter. So you want to line those two up on your player or whatever you want spawning in the swarm spawner. Okay. The next thing is there's two different types of functions. I'm using the target based, which uses the this component here, the swarm loader setter. But there's also spawn swarm character player pawn based. And what this does is it uses the client's player pawn. So if you run this on a server, the AI will only spawn near the server client. If you run it on the owning client, they'll only spawn near the owning client, but they won't be on other people's clients. So it won't like multicast. So just keep that in mind. This is probably more optimized for multiplayer, so you don't end up having hundreds or thousands of AI across like an open world or something. Like if you have a player on the other side of the map and one over here, they'll both have AI running. So you'll probably want to use this for multiplayer. Yeah, so basically you just set the distance to spawn. This is how far from the target or the player pawn. The max spawn amount, I usually just leave this at 1. If you want to increase the distance between the spawners, just go here into the spline and go to increase this 600 value to something like 1500 or 3000 or 4000 or something. This will make them spawn farther apart, so it looks like they spawn less. Okay, and then the character height, this is a offset, so like if the character for some reason is planting in the ground, you can set this on the Z to be a little bit higher. Procedural separation, what this does is it spawns them procedurally apart, so they're not always going to be stacked on top of each other. They'll be separated a little bit. Spawn rotation gives them a random rotation. You'll probably only want to use a Z because X and Y would probably rotate them like sideways. And then the swarm actor to spawn, this is the actor you want to spawn. The pawn is basically the same thing. It's got the same parameters. So yeah, and then we have the demo content now. So that's basically it for the necessary content. So for the demo content, there's a third-person character on here. He has the swarm loader setter and the swarm target. The swarm target lets them chase him, and it basically will on begin play add him to the manager. So it'll add him to an array on the manager. You can also add specific items, so add to zombie targets or remove from zombie targets. Now the reason you would do this is, let's say you had a mechanic where like you throw like a piece of bait, like an arm or something, and you want the zombies to chase the arm. You would, on the begin play of the arm actor, you would add a zombie target, and then on its end play you would remove. And that way the zombies can chase the arm and not you, because they'll find the closest thing to them. So you can just do that. And then on the swarm loader setter, we already went over that. That's basically just the player. On begin play, I am doing a double add to zombie, because on the client, if you do it in multiplayer, which this supports, the client spawns like a few seconds after begin play usually, so of the manager. So I'm just adding it to the target. Do not add this on the player controller, because what that means is because the player controller on the server, I guess, doesn't have like a location in the world or one that updates. If you add it to zombie targets on a player controller and not the player pawn, then they won't chase you if you're in the server. They will on the client, but they won't on the server. So just keep that in mind, and then remove if you die. But there's no death on here, so I'm not doing that. And then also I have a ragdoll feature in the tech demo where if you left mouse button, you can ragdoll them. And this uses the interface event, which is part of the Pro. In light version, this won't happen. So this won't be here in the light version. But yeah, so this sends an event to the NPC zombie. Okay, because it implements the interface. And there's also a behavior tree that lets you send events to the zombies as well, or the swarms. Okay, so that's the player character. The maps is just the map. It has splines in it and a nav mesh, and that's basically it. I tried to make it look good, but with Fab I can't have too many assets, so I basically just relied on lighting to make it look good. So yeah. And then if we go to the AI character, we go to the blueprint AI. We'll start with the AIC Zombie Swarm. This is a Detour crowd controller. So I recommend using this AI controller to start, but if you want to make your own, go to Blueprint class, Detour crowd AI controller, and just use that, not the default one. And then I run a behavior tree, and that's basically it. Just keep in mind the behavior tree runs on the server, so it's replicated to all the clients, but the clients don't run the behavior tree themselves. So if you're doing single player game, you don't need to worry about that. The single player is the server, so you don't need to worry about that. And then basically in the pawn, I have the swarm loader, just like I have in the third person character, except for this time I am destroying if they get far away. And I'm destroying on the server, so it's replicated to the clients. And then on the begin play, I increment the zombie spawn account in the procedural zombie subsystem. This is a subsystem that is used to limit how many zombies get spawned on the client. Keep in mind, since this is a game instance subsystem, it is on the client only, so each client will have their own. So like you can't have this all synced together, so just keep that in mind. And then on the end play, I decrement it down one, so when they die or get destroyed here, I just decrement it, and then it allows more zombies to be spawned. And if you remember, this is used here. If you're using the light version, these won't be here. Okay, so and then from here, this is the, remember that print string in the when I was playing, that's what this is. You would want to add like an attack animation. I don't have any attack animations that I can redistribute on Fab, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just doing a print string. So then we have this ragdoll, and we're multicasting it. We probably could run it on the server, but for this case, I'm just multicasting it. And we just disable movement and simulate them and make the capsule not collide. And if you remember, that's because we're calling this NPC zombie event when we line trace them. So if you left click in the demo content, you'll be able to ragdoll zombies. Okay. So that's basically it. There's one more thing on the Pro version that the Pro comes with, which is the AC NPC Optimizer. And what this does is it lets you add optimization tiers. So like from the distance of 0 to 1,000, I think it's centimeters in Unreal, or vectors from the player, it'll do these settings. So like he'll be able to, the NPCs will cast shadows, they'll have high performance, right? They'll be high quality, and then as they get further away, like 7,000 to 500,000, because it needs an end, they'll skip all of these things and they'll tick less and all that. So just keep that in mind. You can use this to help get extra FPS for free if you're using the Pro version. So yeah, I'm not going to go over that. All these settings are pretty self-explanatory. There is the this should be fixed in your version, but I had a typo. This timer tick rate should be under this in your version, but this is basically how often this array gets updated, the struct. So how often these settings get updated. I recommend keeping it like 0.5, but you can do like a 1 or 2 if you want it to be a little bit more performant. So just keep that in mind. And then the final thing is the behavior tree. This is where all the AI logic comes from. This is where the chasing, the pathfinding, all that stuff comes from. Okay, so it comes with the light comes with set chasing, find swarm target, swarm move to, and swarm pathfinding. And then the Pro comes also with the zombie interface action. So the zombie interface action lets you send events to the zombies, which as you can see we're doing right here. So there are up to 32 events that you can send. So you can do a lot of different like behaviors and extend the behavior tree from that. Okay, and then we have we start the behavior tree by checking if they're set chasing target. Now what this does is if they're within 1500 vectors or centimeters, I'm not entirely sure the exact like measurement unit that Unreal uses, but it's 1500 from the player, then it'll say is chasing target, which is a bool, set to true. If it's true, then we do the chase behaviors. If it's false, we do the pathfinding behaviors. Okay. Yeah. So the find swarm target will just basically do something similar to this, but it also gives it a location. So it will find a swarm target from the manager, and then that's in your level. That again gets its players from the target, or its targets from the AC swarm target component, and then it will do the swarm move to, which is a more advanced movement version of just the standard move to. The difference between move to and swarm move to is swarm move to lets you change your walk speed, and it also lets you what do you call it? Not like if you notice with the move to, they'll go to the spot and then they'll stop. So like if you're pathfinding, they'll go to the pathfind and then they'll stop, and then they'll do it again because they lose velocity. Swarm move to does not let them lose velocity, so they'll just keep going smoothly through the pathfinds. And then we went over the zombie interface action. Swarm pathfinding basically does either a trace forward or a sphere trace. And if it does a sphere trace, then that means it couldn't find a path point. I mean, trace stuff is pretty self-explanatory. But this min path points trace, what this means is, if let's say it does the forward trace, right, and there's only one path point found, and we have this set to 2, then that means it'll do a refind path point and it'll go to that. But if there's 2 path points in the forward trace, that means it'll do the forward trace. So it's kind of like a determinant. So if your AI are getting stuck, set this to like a higher number, because like if they only see 1 path point, they'll just get stuck. And depending on the rotation, they might only see 1 path point. So if that's the case, you'll want to set it to like 2 or 3 path points at a time. The path point tag, if you remember on the swarm path point, remember that tag? It needs to be the same tag. So just keep that in mind. It needs to be the same tag. And that's basically it. If you're having issues with like how they're behaving or they're not moving or something, go to debug draw type and type in for 1 frame or for duration, and you'll be able to see how they're pathfinding. That is basically it for procedural NPC zombies and how to use it. If I missed something, there is a Discord that you can join. I probably won't see your YouTube comments, so there is a Discord you can join on the store page. Join that if you need support. Anyone's welcome. There's no like verification or anything. I help everyone. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good one.